The Groves literacy coach, and Scarlett is a kindergarten teacher at St. John Paul II School in Minneapolis. We actually found out about blended learning this year, so we're kind of new to the party. And we found out about it by talking to a potential Catholic school that was interested in partnering with us, and they started telling us about this amazing program through Notre Dame. And I felt like it was really amazing because I knew our program inside and out, and there seemed to be such an alignment between the two programs. So we are a little different in that we do whole group instruction. We start every day with whole group instruction in literacy. We bring good literacy instruction into K through 3. We're kind of expanding now to K through 5 classrooms. It's all based on the science of reading, and we've been doing this for 7 years. So if you listen to Sold a Story by Emily Hanford, we do all of that and have been doing it for 7 years. And so after this discussion and learning about blended learning, we realized we were in some other blended learning schools because we're in about 48 Catholic schools. We're in 73 schools this year, expanding to I think just over 90 for next year. So I'm going to hand it off to the two of them to present, but what's important is we also incorporate that small group instruction, that station rotation, and I'm really intrigued with the technology piece and adding that to our model. So I'll let you two take it away.
Thank you. So Groves Learning Organization kind of stemmed from Groves Academy, which was a school that's been around for 50 years for students with dyslexia, ADD, and other learning differences. And over the years, they became experts in literacy instruction, and they realized they wanted to serve a larger percentage of students. So GLO is now our rebranded organization, and there's 3 parts. There's the school, that is still a school for students with learning differences. There's the testing center, they run summer school, they offer tutoring, and then there's what Katharine and I are part of, Groves literacy partnerships. And like Katharine was saying, we're in 73 schools, and we work with our partner schools. We bring them a curriculum, and then it comes with coaching, and that's kind of what sets our model apart. So you can just kind of see GLO, what our mission is and our values, and what we always really say is collaboration is key. We really work with our partner schools, and we collaborate to really make sure that our students are getting the best education possible. So this has kind of been covered, but we're in over 500 classrooms, and we're working on continuing to expand, and we're in a model where a Groves coach is there weekly for the first 2 years. Then the 3rd year, the Groves coach comes once a month and trains an in-house coach to make our program sustainable. So I am currently training Scarlett to continue the good fight, and then we continue to partner with them in a sustainability partnership, which is what OLG, where we are now, is in, and we continue to support them and make sure our good work is continuing. So I'll let Scarlett take it away.
And yeah, it's really great to have that coaching aspect. It helps with the fidelity in the beginning. Any questions that you have come up, there's a bunch of resources for teachers that you have online. There's videos for everything, but it's also nice to have that coach in person to be like, hey, I have this like trouble spot. Can you help me with this? Can you model this little part of a lesson? And so that was really beneficial, especially in the first 2 years, and now I'm taking on that role for my teachers on a daily basis. And because I'm in the school every day with the other teachers, it's really like this fluid system where we are like partnering. They have a resource within the building every day. So 3rd year is like kind of that sweet spot. But I'm at John Paul II, and we are located in Northeast Minneapolis. We're part of Ascension Catholic Academy. That could take like a whole presentation in itself, but we are one of 4 schools in the partnership, and all of our schools, I think 3 out of the 4, and I think the 4th one is adopting Groves. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we have over 70% of our students are free reduced lunch. 80% about are English language learners. About half my class this year are new to country. And this is our third year implementing Groves. What I really love about the model is I have always believed in phonics instruction. I've seen my students while I was in private school, public school, working with English language learners, students with learning disabilities. Wherever my scenario was, I was like, these kids need phonics. My struggling readers usually could cover up some of it with their amazing comprehension skills, which I was talking a little bit to you about earlier. And the need for the phonics instruction, though, for that decoding was absolutely necessary. And I saw that when I went into John Paul II's, my 4th year there. The first year we did not have it. And I was like, there is a need. But I was always grabbing from like this resource and let me go to Teachers Pay Teachers and try to find this. There was no like clear scope or sequence. I would try to look up scope and sequences from other programs and kind of like put a mishmash together. But Groves really makes it extremely like fluid and solid, and I look ahead to the next grade level for my kids who are more advanced for a grade level, and it's excellent. But phonemic awareness and phonics are key. We start off our day in my class, you can choose whenever, but it's about a half an hour block of a Groves lesson, and that works really well with our literacy instruction. We have a separate like comprehension-based instruction. We use Wit and Wisdom. Any program really works. And students, after like our whole group lesson for phonics, we usually do a little brain break because we're kindergartners and we need to move. And then we do our more comprehension-based like deep core content lessons. So whether it's in science, social studies, or like within the Groves, or within our Wit and Wisdom curriculum, we do a whole group lesson. But then we're applying the phonics and they're like writing about reading. So that's where you're seeing this sort of blended learning model occur. So students are like making that connection. Remember today when we tapped out these words? Now in your own writing, you're going to tap out these words, and then they do that. And then that's when I'm pulling small groups. So they do the writing about reading, and then they go on to the learning platforms. And the learning platforms are, we use for Dreambox during our math time, and then for our literacy time, we're using Lexia. So Lexia is are you guys, you're nodding over there. It's a literacy program, and it's, they have to have a certain number of minutes, and then it will like set them to the right level. So they're getting that individualized instruction, and then you as an instructor can use the data, looking back at it and figure out, okay, what do I maybe need to do like a little mini lesson on, or what am I seeing that I'm also seeing in Groves with that data? Like how can I fit those together to make a clear plan and an intentional plan for these students in small group? So they work really well together. Everything within Groves and the other program information I'm getting, everything is very data driven. So it's not like before where I was kind of guessing like, oh, I've made this one observation this one time that you're not getting your ED endings. Like, oh, you don't have the suffix. Like, okay, we don't understand past. Like, it's like maybe they were just having an off day, but like you're seeing this ongoing data, and it's like, oh, they missed it here, they missed it here, they missed it here. This program is telling me they're missing it. This is something I need to do for these students so that they are making progress forward. So students are working independently while I'm working with small group. My most needy students, my most developing, as I like to say, are getting a 30-minute intervention lesson with me, and then also with an intervention teacher. So we're really hitting them hard, and they are showing growth. So these kids who are stuck, I think I have, and it's that, do you have a learning disability? These are kindergartners that I work with. Do you have a learning disability? Is it because you're new to country? Is it because you don't have a true L1? You've been learning English at home from mom, but semi-broken English, and you've been learning Spanish from grandma, and you're not really solid in either one. So what is the issue going on here? So it's so nice to have that data to go back to be like, this is your specific thing you need to make growth, and I can help you with that. And we're building vocabulary and all those other pieces because of the blending learning model too. They're getting lots of vocabulary exposure on Lexia. They're getting the different sounds that they're not hearing or being able to produce in small group. So they're making a lot of progress in that way.
So this is kind of our why that we do what we do with GLO, and we know that according to NAEP that 68% of our nation's fourth graders do not read proficiently, and my guess is that's going to even go up with the pandemic slide, and so that means 39% do not even have basic reading skills, and this is going to disproportionately affect children of color. I call them emergent bilinguals, English language learners, and children in poverty. So our wonderful students at St. John Paul II are even more affected by this. And we know that I would say probably the number one myth in education is, oh, if a kid doesn't have it, they'll just catch up. No, that's not true. If a child with a reading difficulty is not identified by the start of third grade, there's only a 25% chance that that student will ever read at grade level. And at the end of third grade, it goes down to under 10%. They're not going to catch up. And our goal, and that's why our program zooms in on K-3 and we're starting to expand, because we want to catch them before this gap widens, because we know we can catch most readers. So this is, again, what I was saying, that this is even greater between our students of color, and that there's an estimated 44 million people who can't even fill out an application or read a basic food label. So it shows that our illiteracy problem in this country is a societal problem. It's not just a education issue, it is affecting everyone. So most students can learn to read. Research, just looking at tons of different studies, have shown that 95% of students can learn to read when they use an instruction, when they use a program that's based on the science of reading. So we've seen that over and over at St. John Paul II. We have kids who are new to country. Maybe in a month, they're not going to be reading on grade level, but they are reading on grade level with that targeted instruction and the explicit reteaches. So 50% of kiddos can read on grade level with explicit and direct instruction based on the science of reading, that whole group instruction. 30% of kids can just read with any type of instruction, so maybe if it's not even explicit. 15% can read, but they need additional time and support. That's really targeting in blended learning, those kids to do that reteach, to meet with them and help them. And still 5%, even with all of those things, will still struggle. But we know that we can catch the vast majority of students, even students who are learning English and are becoming bilingual, can learn how to read. So this is kind of something we've adopted as part of GLO. We use this at every single team meeting and PD we do, and it just drives our work and grounds us in how important this is. And that's our wildly important goal, is that every student will be at or above late grade level in reading. And we have a relentless focus on literacy. And we have to believe this is true, that every single kid can read. And that's why we do what we do every day. So do you want to take over here?
So I already talked quite a bit about this, but our literacy curriculum, we use the Groves method and Wit and Wisdom. So our Wit and Wisdom curriculum is really for building content knowledge and academic vocabulary. And the Groves method pairs really well with that. We're looking at, like in the older grades, we're like doing the syllable segmentation and talking about the parts of a word, prefixes and suffixes, so that students are understanding the meanings of those words, and then can, when they're reading higher level content, they can use those like derivational suffixes to figure out, like, what does this word mean? I'm not sure, I've never come across this word, but can I figure it out based on the base, based on the different suffixes involved? Because I know the suffix, I know this base, together what is that meaning? So even though it's focused on like the phonics and phonemic awareness, it is building that ability to really read and like deeply comprehend higher level texts. Everything is data-based. We use Ames Web at our school. What's the other, isn't there another one?
FAST.
FAST.
Some of our partner schools use FAST, yeah.
So we use Ames Web, and in kindergarten, that is letter sounds, the letter fluency, being able to name them quickly. So I have kids, I use ESGI as well. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it keeps track of the data for individual letters, where Ames Web is looking at how fluent they are within those letters. So it's great to have both pieces, because I have this one thing of data showing me, okay, these are the specific letters we need to work on. That's what I'm getting from ESGI. And Ames Web is giving me that overall of like, this is how fluent they are. And that fluency piece is so important, because to be a fluent reader, to be able to like decode, like we need to see where they're at with decoding. Like, you can't read a book and comprehend it if you are going at, cat, it, in, the, box, and then you move on. So we're looking at those pieces, like, I need you to know those sounds. Or if you're looking at that letter and you're like, like, I can't tell. Like, you need that fluency piece in order to be able to progress as a reader. So it's nice to have both sets of data, and then put that together in order to make up a clear, concise plan to move your learners forward. And then in other grade levels, they're looking at longer parts of text, so they're reading fluency passages, and that's giving you information of how to direct their instruction. Please add in if you'd like, but we use the station rotation in my classroom, and it's pretty seamless. Beginning of kindergarten, it changes a lot throughout the years. We figure out school and get more independence and build that endurance. But every grade level is going to need that building of endurance, learning those routines and everything. So beginning of the year, we're just learning how to like use our different tools. And once they can use their tools, then that becomes like a writing portion of our blended learning model. And then they learn how to transition on their own to using their Clever badge to get into the blended learning models. And that's when I pull in small groups and working with them for their intervention groups. In the beginning of the year, sometimes we are practicing picking up and rolling back a pencil in our hands. And GROWS is really great. It starts off with actually doing that and learning how to hold the pencil correctly. Handwriting is a huge component, which is highly emphasized in kindergarten. And then first grade, and then it like slowly, they do learn how to write in cursive as well, which a lot of research shows that really helps students do well with language, especially students who have dyslexia. So everything is research-based, which is wonderful, and then you have a clear scope and sequence. And so for my kids who came into kindergarten reading, which is a rarity at my school, but it still happens, then I am able to look ahead. And I had a student like this last year. She came in reading at a second grade reading level, and I was like, okay, how's her spelling? So she could decode, could not spell. So then I looked ahead to like, okay, let's see. I'm gonna progress monitor her, see how it's going through all of the different concepts in kindergarten. So I had a plan it was lasted me a month and a half with this child. She picked up everything very quick. We went through the kindergarten scope and sequence within our small group. And there was another student that was with her. And then it was like, okay, let's look at first grade scope and sequence. That way I'm not like just pulling from here, trying to put together this mishmash plan. It is going along with the scope and sequence that they're going to be getting in the program. And then when they're in later grades, it's reinforced in whole group, and they're still able to like do that in small group where they're getting what they need. So then you don't end up with a child who's hits the plateau in second grade when they were just kind of left behind. But like, oh, they can already read, oh, they can already do this. No, were their writing skills matching it? Because it's not just that one piece. The output also needs to match. Can they actually figure out multi-syllable words? So like you're getting them those steps so that they can do that independently. So it works really well for kids who are all of the kids. So even if they're at level, you're matching their needs, you're keeping them going so that they're not plateauing. And then the technology is great. I will have kids come over to my small group and they're like, oh, I saw this on Lexia, I know this word. And it's like, great. And they can recognize it. I'm like, let's practice writing it. We can't write it. Okay, that's what we're gonna do in group today. So it's really great having the blended learning model because they're getting exposed to other things, but it's also like reinforcing the skills that they need in order to keep growing and not get stagnant.
And I just kind of wanted to add, I was in Scarlett's room this week and they came back from specials and their kindergarten, and I was gonna watch her small group. And in under 2 minutes, every single kindergartner got their, do you guys have Chromebooks?
Yeah.
Their Chromebook, signed themselves on to Lexia. Not a single kid needed help. Every kid knew exactly where to go, and she was able to start teaching right away. And I just wanted to mention that because so much of what we've talked about at this conference is blended learning is about systems and procedures and making kids independent. And as a coach, I'm in rooms where you can tell the teachers took time to save time, and I'm in rooms where I'm like, oh my goodness, this teacher's been interrupted 30 times because they can't log themselves on. So it was just, I think I really had like an aha moment, like it can work. These kiddos are in kindergarten and every single kid was able to be successful. So kind of what Scarlett talked about, how blended learning, their framework, and how it really comes together, like these 3 different programs work really well together. They're not at odds together. They're meshing really well. So we're just gonna kind of go into what our framework is. So Grove's Literacy Framework, we're unique in that we're not just a curriculum. We really have 5 components. And the first one is our physical curriculum. We have some samples there if at the end you guys wanna look at them. But we actually have a whole group curriculum that is scripted, that's 32 weeks, K-3. It's based on the science of reading, and it provides teachers exactly what they need. We do phonemic awareness, phonics, and it incorporates in fluency and handwriting. That's a huge part of our program. And each year we're adding more and more. So our curriculum has things for small groups. So again, works so well with blended learning. We have an intervention manual. So if you notice a student is struggling with digraphs, we give you 4 pages of words with digraphs. So you're not Googling what are SH words. Oh, they can't do this one yet because they don't know the floss rule. It will control for where they are in the scope and sequence. And I always look back and think if I would have had this when I was a teacher, I'd probably be 20 pounds lighter because I would have had more time in my life to cook and work out, and because instead I was Googling words with SH to give data-driven instruction. We also help schools make data-based decisions. We really work with how to use Ames-Web or FAST and really getting honest with the data. I've been in schools where they're like, well, this says our students at the 5th percentile, but they can read. No, we have to have a come to Jesus talk. That kid can't read. They're reading at the 5th percentile. We're gonna get them to read, but we need to be honest about this, and we need to help that student improve their reading. We help develop a multi-tiered system of support model. A lot of our schools, and especially our Catholic schools, don't have a clear system to document how to get kids more support. So we come in our 2nd year of our partnership and we work with an interventionist. And we also make sure that anytime a kid is struggling, we don't just send them out of the room to the interventionist. It's our students, and we really work on improving whole group instruction and really target that every single class is doing small groups every day. So we know that quality intervention starts with the classroom teacher. And again, that really meshes well with blended learning. We know that every single student needs to be meeting with the teacher at their level. We also really bring up professional collaboration. Part of our partnership is we have a time once a year where instead of a coaching session, we meet one-on-one with our teachers and do a data deep dive and look at like, well, what is this telling us and where should we go forward? I know a lot of times I'm at a Minneapolis public school during my lunch break. I never actually eat lunch. Like by Wednesdays, I'm like, I bring my lunch home because teachers are emailing me and saying, hey, can you stop by and look at this kid's day 5 assessment? What do you think I should do for a reteach? And it's awesome. I love that I don't get the chance to eat because teachers are really becoming reflective practitioners and trying to drive their small groups to get the most bang for their buck and really serve those students. And another huge part of our framework is ongoing professional development. We lead monthly team meetings to certify in our program. Teachers need to complete 4 articles and responses as well as do a course. We partnered with the University of St. Thomas, and then we actually made our own course, Deeper Literacy Learning. And the coaches wrote it, and I think it's pretty great. And it's about how do we serve emergent bilinguals, what does dyslexia look like, and assessment and intervention, and how do we deep dive data. So we bring all 5 of these things into our partnership, so we're not just handing students or teachers another curriculum. We know teachers have so much on their plate, and we know a curriculum might not be implemented as it was meant to if you just hand it over and give teachers a 2-hour PD. We really work to make sure we're just what the speaker today was talking about, giving those small little seeds and hoping it springs into an oak tree over the years. So our whole group Groves method lesson follows the exact same structure in K-3. We know consistency is so important for students. We're obviously going to increase the rigor from year to year, but we want to give them that same format. So we always start off with phonemic awareness, which I always say, we're a good organization. That we're humble enough to say these 2 guys did it so well, we're going to just borrow their curriculum, and I think that speaks to us. Heggerty we use in K-2 and Kilpatrick in 3rd, and then our manuals in 3rd grade tells them which exercises to do, but it's at the teacher's discretion in K-2. We do a daily review of letter and sounds on the pocket charts using keywords. Then we do a concept development. And this is really that based on the science of reading an appropriate scope and sequence. And one of the things that's really important is we want all students to be here for the whole group lesson. That includes kids with IEPs, that includes new to country students. We are going to expose them to on grade level material. So maybe right now they might only be able to really master the review, but we're exposing them. And we make sure we do teach for reading and spelling. So usually it's all the grades. It's 3 days we practice reading, 2 days we do spelling. We do that on the pocket chart, so the teacher will pull down letters, kids will tap words, and then the kids will help the teacher spell. And then we also have magnet boards, so it's multimodal and kids are actually manipulating tiles themselves. We systematically teach sight words. We have this new procedure that is going so well. So instead of just telling kids, hey, this is the word new, everyone look, new. We always, I'm sure you know as teachers, we always had a student who every single time saw new would say now. And so we really zoom in on using kids leveraging what's regular in a word. So like in new, the N makes the sound, and then zooming in on the unexpected part. And we do multimodal, have them skywrite, and teachers are noticing just huge improvement of students actually remembering sight words and being able to spell them. And then we go to independent practice, which is our workbook.
And I would like to add to that the like multimodal learning, like that physically like skywriting it, like keeps them engaged, and it is just like really helping those kids that need that like kinesthetic learning throughout the day. So like I don't see that in other programs, which is why I love Groves. Like it's constantly like moving and keeping them, and like they're in seats a lot, they're sitting a lot, and to be able to like activate their bodies and their brains together, it really does help.
So again, looking at our framework is that a huge part, and Scarlett mentioned it multiple times, is that we're making data-based decisions, and that's really driving what do we do with our curriculum and blended learning. So do you want to just really quickly talk about that?
Yeah, this is my class, my actual class this year from the fall, and it keeps going, but it was all yellow and orange, or like not even an indicator. And this was our winter data. So as you can see, there was tons and tons and tons of growth. And for like my kids still stuck in here, we're like learning disability, and we got our interventionist isn't allowed to start to a certain date through title. So everything has to be confirmed. So they weren't able to get interventions right away. So now that we're able to double dip, where they're going to the interventionist for 30 minutes and they're getting 5 days a week, 30 minutes with me, like I've seen these kids like really take off, so.
And can I add, even with that student that we suspect, student knew 0 letters, and this is just from fall to winter now knows 18. So even with a student who's still struggling, huge growth.
And also, like I already mentioned, we use the Ames Web, and then we have the periodic, so there's a day 5 assessment every week, and you're able to look at that data to see where your group is as a whole, but then also as individual students, knowing like, ooh, it was these 5 kids did not learn this letter, I'm gonna make a small group out of that. So we're going to work on that, that's gonna be our focus. And then we have ESGI, like I was saying, that gives the specific data, because Ames Web, when you do that assessment, it will give you like the fluency, how fast they're either reading the passage, blending, how many mistakes they made, that kind of thing. It's giving you the overall picture, but the ESGI, for me, focuses in on specific things, and then for the other grade levels, that day 5 tracker is really also helping with figuring out those specific needs of individual students. And then you can form your groups based around that data.
So when you're pulling groups, you have the guided and the independent work time. Do you use the 10 minutes for the independent work time to work those groups, or is that outside of the like, are you finished with this and then you do the small group work as part of the rotation?
So I think I'll clarify if I'm not answering your question. So I will immediately, like when they go to do their independent writing, when they go into that, I'm immediately pulling my 30-minute group.
Okay.
They are not going to be successful at that independent writing, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
I will send them after group, and I'm like, draw your picture to go with that. And then we have peacetime later in the day, where I'll go back with that group and support with like putting a word on or labeling the picture, getting the beginning sound, because they're not going to be successful and they're going to waste their time. So it's really like having that like flexibility within the schedule too. So it's like, I'm dipping back to them. And then my other groups who are like at grade level, we have geodes. So geodes is connected to our wit and wisdom. There's decodable texts. So they are getting like, a couple of those groups really need that Haggerty, the phonemic awareness piece. So we will go through 3 exercises, whereas with my intervention group, I'm going through all 8 exercises. And my intervention group might be going back to like, we're in whole group at week 23. My small group for that group, they're not there yet, so we might be going back to week 10.
Okay.
And so they're getting the phonemic awareness and phonics at like the level that they need. And like the previous year when I had the kid who was in 2nd grade stuff, I just asked, can I borrow your book? And I would use the other intervention one and like do their Haggerty for that week. So they're still getting all the components, but it's a shortened time frame for my other groups. Does that answer that?
Yeah. So like I'm just looking at the red section for the kindergarten, you teach kindergarten, right?
Yeah.
And so does this assume 2 different groups with the rotation?
Nope,
Like
so
one group's
the-
doing guided?
Yeah, this bottom part, the workbook part, they
Yeah.
are, I don't know if you guys want to peek at this. This we're doing whole group, so this guided part is like with, that's still part of the 30-minute whole group lesson. And then the independent practice page, because most of mine don't speak English, they don't know what the names of the pictures are. And the pictures are nice because they will show up again and it's helping them build like some of that vocabulary, but we'll have a pot. And they might not know pot, they might just call it pan, and then you're doing the ending sounds. So I will actually go through the independent page with my students.
Like this, right?
Yes, yep. And so this is that guided part that you're doing together, and then the independent page. This is part of the groups lesson, so this is not my like small groups that I'm doing. Does that make sense? So like they are practicing the letter L. We did that together, guided. This page, I am literally saying, pull straight down from the top. Like there's scripted, like I'd have to see the letter card. I don't remember that one. I haven't done it recently. But it's like you start at the top line, pull straight down to the baseline, and then trace the baseline. And we are saying those, and I'm like, what letter is that? L. What sound does it say? O. Okay, we're all starting together, and then we all do this page together. For every single letter. Was it? Yeah. So every single letter is together. They don't write ahead. Some will try, and I'm like, nope, try again. They learn, like, we're doing this whole page together, so they're really learning that handwriting. They can't go ahead, stop, we're doing the next one. That's one of those, like, routines that I am, like, drill sergeant for at the beginning of the year, so that they're, like, not trying to be sneaky. And my ones who are sneaky, I'm like, hello, proximity is a beautiful thing. So we're doing this all together. This page, they independently are L-O, L-O, and I'm walking around making sure that they're hitting that top line, they're hitting the baseline, they're going across, that they're not going past to the dot line. Oop, that L got too long. Or they're not saying one, one when they do the lowercase l, because that happens. You're like, ooh, letters, numbers, I see what we need to teach. And then this, mine don't know all the vocabulary, so we do this together. My little one last year who was doing second grade level stuff, she went through and was able to do this herself, and then I gave her a book that we'd be doing in small group and talking about comprehension, because her comprehension wasn't there. So she would finish this because she could do it completely independently. And in small group, we had a head start. I was like, all right, you read your book to this page? Let's talk about what happened in that book. So it's really like maximizing your time, really knowing your students. I was talking earlier at our table about blended learning. It really forces you. It's like a forced relationship. If you're like, oh, I'm just here to show up to teach, sorry, no. Like, you have to know these kids, and it forces you to do that. Like, you get to know them, and it's like so much more of a rich relationship when you do blended learning. And then the assessment piece, this is day 5. This is all together. And I will pull some of my kids first in small group to do this as well. They'll do it whole group. But then because of attention issues or possible learning disabilities, or I'm new to country and I can't follow the directions and keep up, I don't know where we're at, because I, in the very beginning, don't know what number 1 is. And even though I'm pointing to it and not following it, there's too much language happening. In small group, then I will take some time, reassess them to see if it was, is this my ability to follow directions? Or, and like attention? Or is it that I actually don't know the sounds? Because I want to know. Do you actually not know the letter and sound? Do you actually not know how to segment this word and put it in pieces for those kids who are at like 2nd grade? Which portion is it? Because this is not meant to be punitive. This is meant to give you information so that you can like meet your needs. So there are like definitely accommodations you make so that you can get the most out of the data. Like, I want to know, does my little one actually not know A? Or is it she's super distracted, she showed up to school late, and she's trying to figure out the routine. She's thinking about, oh, I didn't get to eat breakfast, I'm hungry. I need to separate out that data. So it's really nice to be able to pull that in small group. So did I answer your full question? Yeah. Okay.
We've got about 5 minutes, so I'm gonna just quickly show, this is a video of Scarlett doing her small groups in the blended learning model. So this would be after the whole group instruction. And I think these are two.
These are my new to country kids.
New to country.
Yep. It was winter, as you can tell by the sweater.
Oh, we might have a
Sound issue.
So if you just want to maybe briefly explain what you're working on with them. We can see the multimodal.
Yes, you can see the multimodal. Oh, I'm really sad that the volume's not working. Can you go in here?
I'll try, yeah.
That's like makes it so much more powerful. But we were working on, so that's the Haggerty book you see right in front. That's the big long book over there. And they, I'm trying to remember what we were doing in this video. Do you want to go back to the?
We're small enough. Do you just want to detach the computer and?
Yeah, do you want to detach it and bring it over?
I think it's that it's connected to a speaker, a separate speaker, so.
That must be back here.
And that's also, or maybe, yeah, if you just want to disconnect the computer and bring it to that table, we can all kind of sit around it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just to be most conscientious of time.
All right, I'm gonna start it over.
weeks behind where the rest of the group was. And you can like tell that they're not quite getting it yet, but that like immediate feedback in the moment is really powerful. And like now this week, this was about a month ago, I would say, they are quick, and now it's not all part of the same word family. Now they're getting different word families and being able to put those parts together. So that was the onset rhyme, and now actually too, we're tapping 3 sounds. So instead of k at cat, we're doing k at cat, b in bin, and they're able to do it successfully. So it's just giving those little steps, meeting them where they're at.
And that's using the Hegarty manual. So again, she's not having to Google a list of words. It's provided, but she went back so she can differentiate.
You obviously do.
And then,
Our next letter is O, on,
so they're practicing their writing.
on the box. O, on, So when we start that, watch first. We start on the dash line. Curve back to the midline and back up to the dash line. Okay, so make sure you're curving back. You don't need to rewrite them. So O, O, Can you do your O's? O,
My sweet babies.
And another thing, so we provide a dry erase. So there's alignment again between the workbook. The lines look the exact same because we find when you have that consistency and you're not having little kids' brains switch, well, how do I write on this paper? And we give blank templates, and it helps kids because then they can really work on how to form the correct letters. So we are, I think, almost out of time. I think we can do this next part in like a minute. Is that good? We're gonna try if we don't have problems reconnecting. So overall, what we know is that we're in alignment with blended learning because what we've noticed with our partners that are taking the time to teach our program with fidelity and doing consistent small groups, we're having the best results because we know that not every kid can learn just with whole group. We need to do strategic small group reteaches in order to catch up all students. So one of the things that we're doing as an organization is we're continually giving students or teachers things to do in small group centers and rotations. So we're starting to create centers that are science of reading aligned, so teachers don't have to go on Teachers Pay Teachers and spend 4 hours looking for this. It's aligned, it has keyword cards that kids are used to seeing. It's building vocabulary, like wax might be new to a lot of our emergent bilinguals, and next year we're actually gonna have physical centers that schools can purchase, and it works really well in a blended learning model so that kids aren't always just on technology, because you said that yesterday and that really resonated with me. A lot of schools that not say they're blended learning, every kid's on a computer. We need those hands-on because we know our emergent bilinguals have to establish oral language. And if we don't give kids a chance to interact and we just put them on a computer, they're not gonna get that part. So this is something we're continuing to develop because we see in our schools, we get the best results. We get to that 95% on grade level when we're doing strategic reteaches. So I'm just gonna go through this really quickly because I know we're out of time. Basically, knowing we have almost all new to country in kindergarten, 86% of kids mastered every single letter name from our week 19 assessment. That's amazing. We came in and most knew 0 or 1 or 2. Like no one did pre-K.
I was like, here we go.
So just in 4 months, we had a 32% reduction in high risk from kindergarten to fall to winter, 9% overall for grades 1 to 4, and 87% of students are showing growth. And there are 12% less students in grades 1 to 4 who are at risk a year later. So it's really exciting to show not just this year, but the more years we're doing this program, we're catching up more and more students. And what he was talking about today really resonated with me. It's incremental change. Our first year of our partnership, we focus on the whole group curriculum. The second year, we come in and we say, we're gonna target small groups. We are gonna get small groups because that's where we catch up kids. And now the third year, every single teacher is teaching small groups consistently. And we're starting to see this is becoming sustainable. And in every year, we're having more new to country kids, yet we're still showing a huge reduction because the kids who've been there for a while have, are reading on grade level. So just kind of really quick visual, we can just see this red drop. This is based on Ames Web. We can see the green increase, which is our why. We need to be data driven. And then this is just an overall GLP, just that we had 4,400 students show growth. So I think this is 97% of the kids in our partner schools showed growth. So that's where we're gonna leave it. So we only missed 3 slides. So thank you guys so much. And any questions, and ask Katharine too, so.
Feel free to
Yeah,
pick my
thank
brain
you.
if you have any like application to the actual classroom questions too.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Since you just found out about blended learning, we've been struggling with coaches, not coaches, that they don't understand the blended learning